The fluorescent lights of the hospital cafeteria buzzed overhead, a relentless hum that had become the soundtrack to my exhaustion. I pressed my fingertips against my temples, trying to massage away the headache that had been building since my double shift began 14 hours ago. The coffee in my chipped mug had gone cold, a film forming on its surface like the thin ice that coated the city streets outside. I was invisible here. Just another nurse in scrubs stained with someone else's blood, another body taking up space in the corner booth where the night shift workers came to decompose before dragging themselves home. My reflection in the window showed a ghost. Dark circles beneath hazel eyes, blonde hair escaping its ponytail in limp strands, skin so pale it seemed translucent under the harsh lighting. 3 years. 3 years since I'd been that bright-eyed student who believed saving lives would fill the hollow spaces inside me. Now I knew better. Now I understood that some voids couldn't be filled, only managed, surviving one shift at a time while bills piled up, and my daughter's daycare called to remind me, again, that I was late with this month's payment. The cafeteria door swung open, letting in a blast of February cold that carried the scent of expensive cologne and something darker. Leather, perhaps, or gunpowder. I didn't look up. Whoever they weren't here for me. Nobody was ever here for me. Emma. My body tensed before my mind could process the voice. That voice. The one that used to whisper promises against my skin, that had sworn forever before discovering forever had an expiration date. I forced myself to look up. Jake stood 3 feet away, and he looked good. Too good. The kind of good that came from not working double shifts, from not choosing between groceries and electricity, from walking away when things got difficult and never looking back. His jaw was sharp, his dark hair styled in that effortlessly messy way that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. He wore a leather jacket that screamed money, designer jeans that fit perfectly, and an expression that made my stomach twist. "What are you doing here?" My voice came out steadier than I felt, though my fingers tightened around the mug until my knuckles went white. "I've been trying to reach you." He slid into the booth across from me, uninvited, and I caught a whiff of whiskey on his breath. "You blocked my number. I wonder why." I kept my tone flat, emotionless. 3 years of practice made it easier. "You need to leave, Jake. I'm working." "You're always working." He leaned forward, and there it was. That old charm, that practiced smile that had once made me believe I was special. "That's part of the problem, Emma. You've let yourself go. Look at you." The words landed like acid on an open wound. I looked down at my scrubs, at the coffee stain on my sleeve, at my bare left hand where a ring had once sat, before I'd pawned it to pay for Lily's medicine last winter. "I have a 3-year-old daughter to support," I said quietly. "Alone." Funny how that happens when her father decides fatherhood isn't for him. His jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "Fair?" The word tasted bitter. "You want to talk about fair. I want to talk about us." He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. His palm was warm, soft. The hand of someone who'd never scrubbed blood from beneath his fingernails, who'd never worked until his feet bled. "I made a mistake, Emma, walking away from you, from Lily. It was the biggest mistake of my life." I should have pulled my hand away. Should have stood up, walked out, returned to my floor where Mrs. Patterson in 304 needed her medication, and Mr. Chen was probably calling for his 3rd pain pill of the night. But something kept me frozen. Not hope. Not anymore. But a kind of morbid curiosity. Like watching a car crash in slow motion. "I've changed," Jake continued, his thumb tracing circles on my wrist. "I'm doing better now. Really well, actually. I could help you, Emma. Help with Lily. We could be a family again. You haven't asked about her once." The observation came out sharper than I intended. "Not her birthday, not how she's doing, not if she remembers you. Which she doesn't, by the way. She was 6 months old when you left." "That's my point." His grip tightened, and something in his eyes shifted, something that reminded me why I'd blocked his number in the first place. "I want to fix that. I want to be there for her, for you. Jake. You belong to me, Emma." The words came out low, intense, carrying an edge that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "You always have. That little phase of playing nurse, of pretending you don't need me. It's over now. I'm here to take you home. The cafeteria suddenly felt too small, too warm despite the cold air that kept seeping in through the poorly sealed door. Other people were here, a janitor mopping in the corner, 2 residents arguing over a chart, a security guard buying chips from the vending machine. But they seemed miles away, separated from us by an invisible barrier that made their voices sound muffled and distant. I don't belong to anyone. I pulled my hand away, finally finding the strength to move. And I am home. This hospital. This job. This is my life now. A life I've built without you. Built? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You call this building a life? Working yourself to death for minimum wage, living in that shoebox apartment in the worst part of town, barely scraping by? I can give you everything, Emma, everything you've been struggling for. I don't want your money. You wanted it before. His voice dropped lower, and now the other people in the cafeteria definitely felt too far away. You wanted everything I had to offer. Or did you forget? The way you used to look at me, the way you'd stop. My face burned. That was a different person. I was a different person. You were mine. The possessiveness in those words made my chest tight. This wasn't love. Maybe it never had been. Maybe I'd been so desperate to feel wanted, so eager to believe someone could see me as more than ordinary, that I'd mistaken obsession for devotion. I stood up, my chair scraping against the linoleum floor. I have to get back to work. Jake stood too, faster than I expected, his hand shooting out to grab my wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop me. We're not done talking. Let go of me. Emma. The lady asked you to let go. The voice came from behind me, smooth and cold as winter rain. It carried an authority that made Jake's hand immediately release my wrist, made the entire cafeteria seem to hold its breath. I turned. A man stood near our booth, and my first thought was that he didn't belong here. Not in this fluorescent-lit cafeteria with its chipped tables and stale coffee smell. He belonged somewhere else, somewhere expensive, somewhere dangerous, somewhere that existed in the shadows between legal and lethal. He was young, maybe early 30s, with dark hair styled back from a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, lips that looked cruel even in their perfect symmetry. But it was his eyes that held me, dark, almost black in the harsh lighting, and completely focused on Jake with an intensity that made my mouth go dry. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car, perfectly tailored to shoulders that suggested he knew how to handle himself in a fight. A white shirt, open at the collar, revealed tan skin and the edge of what might have been a tattoo. No tie. Something about that missing tie felt deliberate, like a concession to civility he wasn't quite willing to make. Behind him, near the cafeteria entrance, stood 2 men in dark clothing. They weren't trying to be subtle. One had his hand inside his jacket. The other was scanning the room with the practiced eye of someone trained to identify threats. "This is a private conversation," Jake said, but his voice had lost its edge. He'd taken a step back without seeming to realize it. The man's gaze hadn't left Jake's face. "Is it?" His accent was hard to place, American, but with cultured undertones that suggested expensive schools and European influences, because from where I'm standing it looked like harassment. "I'm her," Jake started. "Ex-boyfriend," I supplied quickly, finding my voice. "He was just leaving." "Was I?" Jake's attention snapped back to me, and I saw anger flash in his eyes. Real anger now, the kind that used to make me lock myself in the bathroom until he calmed down. "We're not finished, Emma. You can't just—" She said you were leaving. The stranger moved, a subtle shift that somehow placed him between me and Jake. It wasn't aggressive exactly, but the message was clear. "I suggest you listen." Jake's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might do something stupid. But then his eyes slid to the 2 men by the door, and whatever he saw there made his face go pale. "This isn't over," he said to me, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "You belong to me, Emma. Sooner or later you'll remember that." He pushed past the stranger, shoulder-checking him in a pathetic display of bravado that the man didn't even acknowledge. The cafeteria door swung shut behind him with a hollow bang that echoed in the sudden silence. I realized I was shaking. "Are you all right?" The stranger's voice had changed, softened somehow, though his eyes remained hard as obsidian. "I'm fine." The lie felt automatic. "Thank you for intervening. You didn't have to do that." "Yes," he said simply. "I did." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt stripped bare under that gaze, like he could see through the exhaustion and the scrubs and the carefully constructed walls I'd built around myself, like he was cataloging every detail. The tremor in my hands, the pulse hammering in my throat, the way I couldn't quite catch my breath. "You work here?" he asked. "I'm a nurse, pediatric ward." Why was I telling him this? I should get back. My shift. "You're Emma." It wasn't a question. My blood went cold. "How do you—" "Your name tag." He gestured to my chest, where my ID badge hung on a lanyard. Emma Chen, RN. Of course, the logical explanation. So why did it feel like he'd known my name before reading that badge? "Thank you again," I said, trying to edge around him. "But I really need to—" "He'll be back." The word stopped me. "What?" "Men like that always come back." He pulled a card from his inner jacket pocket, holding it out to me between two fingers. "When he does, call this number." I stared at the card. Heavy stock, expensive paper, with nothing but a phone number embossed in black. No name, no title, no company. "I don't understand. Who are you?" His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached his eyes. Someone who doesn't like seeing people pushed around. He pressed the card into my palm, his fingers warm against my cold skin. "Keep it. You'll need it. I don't even know your name. Dante." He said it like it should mean something, like I should recognize it. I didn't. "Keep that card safe, Emma." He turned to leave, his guards immediately flanking him. But at the door, he paused, looking back over his shoulder. "And lock your doors tonight, all of them." Then he was gone, leaving behind only the scent of expensive cologne and the feeling that something in my carefully controlled life had just shifted irrevocably off its axis. I looked down at the card in my hand. Just a phone number. Nothing else. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. My cold coffee sat abandoned on the table. Somewhere upstairs, Mrs. Patterson needed her medication. Everything was exactly as it had been 5 minutes ago, so why did I feel like I'd just stepped off a cliff into darkness, with no way of knowing if there was ground below or just an endless fall? I slipped the card into my pocket and went back to work, unaware that upstairs, in the VIP wing I'd never had clearance to enter, Dante Salvatore stood by a window overlooking the parking lot, watching Jake peel out of the hospital garage with the kind of reckless anger that got people killed. "Background check," he said to the man on his left, his underboss and oldest friend. "Everything. Who he is, where he works, who he owes, who he's fucking. I want to know what brand of toothpaste he uses." "Boss, she's nobody. Just a nurse. Getting involved." "Did I ask for your opinion, Marco?" "No, sir." Dante's jaw tightened as he watched Emma's battered Honda Civic eventually pull out of the staff lot an hour later, its exhaust pipe hanging low, one taillight out. She'd be driving home to that apartment in the South End, the one with the broken lock on the front door and the landlord who never fixed anything. He'd already had her address, had known her name before seeing that badge, had known about her daughter, about Jake, about the medical bills and the eviction notice she'd received last week, had known the moment he saw her in that booth, hunched over cold coffee with shadows under her eyes, that she was going to be a problem. The kind of problem that ended with blood on his hands and his carefully constructed empire teetering on the edge of exposure. The kind of problem he should walk away from. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to a contact, and typed, "Put a detail on her, 24/7. Nobody gets close without my clearance." The response came immediately. Understood. Dante pocketed his phone and turned away from the window, his expression unreadable in the reflection. He was many things. A businessman, a criminal, a killer when necessary. But he was also his father's son, raised with codes that men like Jake wouldn't understand, and one of those codes was simple. You protected what was yours, even if she didn't know she was his yet. The apartment was dark when I finally dragged myself up the 3 flights of stairs. my feet screaming in protest with each step. The building superintendent still hadn't fixed the light in the stairwell. Hadn't fixed it in the 8 months since I'd moved in, and probably wouldn't fix it in the 8 months to come. I'd learned to navigate by memory, counting steps, feeling for the railing that wobbled dangerously under my weight. Lily was with Mrs. Rodriguez downstairs, probably already asleep on her couch surrounded by the old woman's 17 cats. I'd pick her up in the morning before my next shift, let Mrs. Rodriguez add another day to the running tab of babysitting debts I'd somehow repay when my financial situation stopped being a controlled avalanche toward bankruptcy. My keys rattled in the lock, the deadbolt I'd installed myself after the break-in 2 months ago. The super had shrugged when I reported it, said this neighborhood attracted that kind of trouble. Maybe I should move somewhere safer, as if I had choices. As if safe places existed for single mothers working minimum wage jobs with maxed-out credit cards and student loans that would outlive me. The door swung open into darkness that smelled like the vanilla candles I burned to mask the mold growing in the bathroom. I fumbled for the light switch, my fingers finding it just as my exhaustion-fogged brain registered something wrong. Someone had been here. The realization hit like ice water. Nothing obvious. No overturned furniture. No smashed windows. But little things. The mail on the counter was arranged differently than I'd left it. The kitchen chair wasn't quite pushed in. The faint scent of cigarettes lingering in air I'd left, closed up and sterile. My hand was already reaching for my phone when I saw it. A manila envelope sat on my kitchen table. Thick and official-looking, with my name written across it in masculine handwriting I didn't recognize. I should have called the police, should have run downstairs to Mrs. Rodriguez, grabbed Lily, and gotten the hell out. Instead, I found myself moving toward that envelope like it was magnetized, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Inside were photographs. The first showed Jake leaving a bar I didn't recognize, his arm around a woman who definitely wasn't me. Timestamp, last Tuesday. The night he'd told me he was working late at his new job, the one he'd been so mysterious about. The second showed him meeting with 3 men in what looked like a warehouse. Money was changing hands. The photo quality was professional. Not some grainy cell phone picture, but clear, sharp, the kind that required expensive equipment and someone who knew how to use it. The third made my stomach drop. Jake, standing in the hospital parking lot earlier tonight, his face twisted with rage as he punched my car, my poor Honda, its side mirror now hanging by wires I hadn't noticed in my exhaustion. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m., less than an hour ago. Beneath the photos was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. He damaged your property. That mirror will cost $340 to replace. Money you don't have. The men he's meeting with deal in stolen pharmaceuticals. The woman is named Jessica Torres. She doesn't know he has a daughter. He owes $15,000 to people who break kneecaps for late payments. You're in danger, whether you believe it or not. The door to your apartment can be picked in under 30 seconds. Your building has no security cameras. Your neighbors wouldn't hear you scream. Call the number. D. My hands shook so badly the paper rattled. This was insane. Completely insane. Someone had broken into my apartment. Not to steal, but to leave me evidence of what? Jake's criminal activities? His debts? His cheating? Dante. The stranger from the hospital. With his expensive suit and dangerous eyes and guards who carried guns in shoulder holsters, they didn't bother hiding. I pulled his card from my pocket, staring at that embossed number like it might suddenly reveal answers. Who was he? How did he know about Jake? How did he know about my car, my apartment, my financial situation? How long had he been watching me? The question should have terrified me. Instead, it made something warm unfurl in my chest. Something uncomfortable that felt dangerously close to relief. Someone was paying attention. Someone saw me. Truly saw me. Not as invisible furniture in the hospital corridors, but as a person worth protecting, even if that someone had just committed multiple felonies to do it. I looked at the photos again. Jake's face in that warehouse, greedy and calculating. Jake with another woman, his hand on her lower back in a gesture I remembered too well. Jake destroying my property in a rage because I dared to say no to him. You belong to me. My phone buzzed, making me jump. Unknown number. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the decline button. But something, curiosity, stupidity, or maybe just bone-deep exhaustion, made me answer. Hello? Did you find the envelope? Dante's voice, smooth and dark as aged whiskey, filled my ear. You broke into my apartment. My voice should have been angry. Instead, it came out breathless. I had someone check your locks. They're insufficient. You can't just... I struggled for words, for outrage that wouldn't quite materialize. This is illegal. Breaking and entering. Stalking. He's going to come back, Emma. No apology. No justification. Just cold fact delivered in that accent that did things to my nervous system I didn't want to examine. Tomorrow. Maybe the next day. Men like Jake don't handle rejection well, especially when they're desperate for money. I can handle Jake. Can you? A pause. You're 5'5", 120 pounds. You've lost weight, not eating enough, probably skipping meals to make sure your daughter has food. You're exhausted, working doubles to cover bills you can't afford. He's 6 feet, works out regularly, and has a history of violence his sealed juvenile record doesn't quite hide. My blood went cold. How do you... I make it my business to know things. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the phone separating us. Especially when it concerns people I'm protecting. I didn't ask you to protect me, no. Something in his tone shifted. You didn't. But here we are. I sank into my kitchen chair, suddenly too tired to stand. Outside my window, the city hummed, sirens wailing, someone shouting in the alley, the constant white noise of traffic on the expressway 2 blocks over. Normal sounds. Everyday chaos. So why did everything feel different? What do you want from me? The question came out quieter than I intended. Silence stretched between us, long enough that I thought he might have hung up. Then, I want you to be safe. Why? Does it matter? Yes. My fingers tightened on the phone. It matters a lot. People don't just... Men like you don't break into apartments and leave evidence packages for strangers unless they want something. Men like me... He almost sounded amused. What kind of man do you think I am, Emma? The kind with bodyguards and expensive suits, and eyes that had seen too much death. The kind who knew about sealed juvenile records and could have professional surveillance photos taken within hours. The kind whose name people probably whispered with fear, not affection. Dangerous, I said finally. Yes. No denial, no deflection. I am dangerous, very dangerous, to people who threaten what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implication I didn't want to unpack. My heart was racing again, but this time it had nothing to do with fear. I should hang up, I said, but didn't move. You should. Agreement without expectation. But you won't. Because you're smart enough to know you need help, even if you're too proud to ask for it. I don't need... Your car needs $340 worth of repairs you can't afford. Your rent is late, 3 months now, not 2 like you told your supervisor. Your daughter needs new shoes. The ones she's wearing are a size too small. The daycare called you twice this week about overdue payments. Your student loans defaulted 6 months ago. You're drowning, Emma, and you're too stubborn to reach for the life preserver. Each word hit like a physical blow. He knew everything. Every humiliating detail of my financial collapse. Every failure. Every desperate choice. Stop. My voice cracked. Just stop. I'm not trying to hurt you. His voice gentled, though the steel underneath remained. I'm trying to help you see reality. You're vulnerable. Jake knows it. Those men he owes money to know it. And they'll use it. Use you. Use your daughter to get what they want. And what do you want? I was crying now, silent tears tracking down my face. Really? What's your angle? Another pause. Then, tomorrow someone will come to fix your car. Don't argue with him. Don't offer to pay. It's done. Your landlord will also receive a payment covering your back rent and the next 6 months. Again, don't argue. I can't accept. You can, and you will. Command now. The voice of someone used to absolute obedience. Because your pride isn't worth your daughter's safety. Because refusing help when you need it isn't strength, it's stupidity. And you're not stupid, Emma. You don't know me. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. He did know me. Knew me better than people I'd known for years. Knew my weaknesses, my fears, my failures. I know enough. A sound in the background. Voices. Someone calling his name. I have to go. Lock your doors. All of them. And Emma? What? Get some sleep. You're working another double tomorrow, and you need to be sharp. He hung up before I could respond. I sat in my dark kitchen, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. The photos were spread before me, evidence of a life spinning further out of my control. Outside, the city continued its eternal symphony of chaos. My hands were shaking again, but this time I couldn't tell if it was fear or something else entirely. Something that felt uncomfortably like anticipation. The next morning arrived too quickly, dragging me from fitful sleep where dangerous men with dark eyes chased me through endless hospital corridors. Lily was already awake when I stumbled downstairs to collect her, singing to Mrs. Rodriguez's cats in that pure, unself-conscious way only 3-year-olds could manage. "Mama!" She launched herself at my legs, and I caught her, breathing in the baby shampoo scent of her hair. This was why I kept going. Why I worked doubles and skipped meals and pretended I wasn't drowning. "Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez." I set Lily down, reaching for my wallet even though I knew it was empty. The old woman waved me off. "Next time, mija, you look terrible. Are you eating?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're—" She paused, her eyes widening as she looked past me toward the street. "Dios mío. Emma, whose car is that?" I turned. A man stood beside my Honda, or what had been my Honda. The side mirror was fixed, but that wasn't all. The car gleamed like it had just rolled off a showroom floor. New paint covered the rust spots. The dented bumper was pristine. Even the exhaust pipe that had been hanging by a prayer was secured properly. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a black jacket despite the morning chill. He had the same watchful quality as the guards who'd flanked Dante last night. "Ms. Chen." He had a thick accent. Russian, maybe. "Your car is ready." I walked over on numb legs, Lily's hand clutched in mine. The interior had been detailed, the cracked dashboard replaced, new floor mats installed. Even the radio that had been broken for 2 years was working, classical music playing softly. I can't. Words failed me. The man handed me the keys, his expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Salvatore sends his regards. He also sent this." He produced an envelope. Not manila this time, but cream-colored, expensive, for the little one. He was gone before I could respond, disappearing into a black SUV with tinted windows that pulled away from the curb like a shark gliding through dark water. Lily tugged my hand. "Mama?" Who was that man? Why is our car pretty now? I stared at the envelope, my name written in that same masculine handwriting from last night. Inside was a gift card to the children's shoe store downtown for $500 and a note. "Every child deserves shoes that fit." Something in my chest cracked open. Some wall I'd been maintaining through sheer force of will. I thought about last night, about refusing help, about pride and stubbornness, and the myth of making it alone. I thought about Jake's face twisted with rage, about men who dealt in stolen pharmaceuticals, about debts and kneecaps and danger I couldn't fight with 12-hour shifts and determination. I thought about Lily, singing to cats in a neighbor's apartment because I couldn't afford real daycare, about shoes that pinched her growing feet, about the future I was trying to build from rubble and optimism. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed the number on that embossed card. He answered on the first ring. "Thank you." My voice barely worked. "For the car. For the... everything. You're welcome." Satisfaction in his tone, though I suspect you're calling for another reason. He was right. God help me. He was right. I need to know what you want from me. Direct. No games. The real answer. Because men like you don't help people out of kindness. "Men like me," he repeated. And this time I heard the edge underneath. "You keep saying that. Maybe you should reserve judgment until you actually know what kind of man I am." "Then tell me." A long pause. Background noise suggested he was in a car, probably one of those black SUVs with bulletproof windows, and drivers who carried guns. "Have dinner with me tonight," he said finally. "What?" "Dinner, a meal, conversation. A chance for you to ask your questions in person instead of hiding behind a phone." "I'm working." "I know your schedule. You're off at 6. Someone will pick you up at 7. Wear something comfortable. And Emma?" His voice dropped, intimate despite the distance. "Bring your questions, all of them. I'll give you truth, even if you don't like the answers. I don't think... You owe me nothing. Not money, not favors, not anything beyond an hour of your time. If after dinner you want me to disappear, I will. You'll never hear from me again. The car is yours regardless. The rent is paid regardless. No strings." It was the no strings that decided it, because I recognized a lie when I heard one, heard it in my own voice enough times. Everything had strings. Everyone wanted something, but at least he was honest about the dishonesty. 7 o'clock, I agreed. 1 hour, then you leave me alone. If that's what you want. A pause. But Emma? I don't think it is. He hung up before I could argue, leaving me standing beside my transformed car with my daughter's hand in mine, and the uncomfortable feeling that I'd just agreed to something far more dangerous than dinner. Mrs. Rodriguez was watching from her window, crossing herself like she did when ambulances screamed past with their lights blazing. "That man," she called down, "the one who fixed your car. He's not a good man, mija." I knew that. Had known it the moment I saw him in that cafeteria with danger rolling off him like cologne. But Jake wasn't a good man either, and he'd almost destroyed me with charm and promises. At least Dante was honest about being dangerous. The black car arrived at precisely 7 o'clock, idling at the curb like a panther waiting to pounce. Not an SUV this time, but a sedan. Sleek, expensive, the kind that whispered wealth instead of shouting it. The windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside, but I knew who had sent it. I'd changed 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a cream sweater. The nicest things I owned that didn't have stains or holes. My hair was down, falling past my shoulders in waves I'd actually had time to style. Makeup covered the shadows under my eyes. I almost looked human instead of the walking corpse who haunted hospital corridors. Mrs. Rodriguez had Lily again. Blessing her, the old woman had taken my daughter without questions, just pressed rosary beads into my palm, and told me to be careful. I'd left them on my kitchen counter, unsure whether I believed in protection that came from prayer. The driver emerged as I approached. A different man than this morning, but cut from the same cloth. Dark suit, watchful eyes, the kind of stillness that came from military training or prison time. He opened the rear door without a word. The interior smelled like leather, and something spicy. Dante's cologne, I realized. He wasn't inside, but his presence lingered like smoke. "Where are we going?" I asked as the driver pulled smoothly into traffic. "Mr. Salvatore is waiting for you." His eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. 20 minutes. I watched the city slide past the windows, familiar streets giving way to neighborhoods I'd only seen in magazines. The buildings grew taller, cleaner, the kind of places where doormen wore uniforms and residents had names that appeared in society pages. We passed restaurants with Michelin stars, boutiques where a single dress cost more than my monthly rent, art galleries showcasing paintings I'd only ever seen in textbooks. This wasn't my world, would never be my world, so what was I doing here? The car pulled up to a building that made my breath catch, all glass and steel jutting into the sky like a blade. The driver opened my door, gesturing to the entrance where another suited man waited, Ms. Chen. This one had an Italian accent, his smile professional but not unkind. "Mr. Salvatore is expecting you. Please, follow me." We bypassed the lobby entirely, entering a private elevator that required a key card to operate. The man inserted his, pressed the button for the top floor, then stepped out, leaving me alone as the doors whispered shut. My reflection stared back at me from polished brass. A woman in borrowed courage, pretending she belonged in elevators that cost more than her education. My hands were shaking again. I clasped them together, forcing my breathing to slow. The elevator rose so smoothly I barely felt the movement, just watched the floor numbers climb. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Finally, it stopped at 65. The penthouse. The doors opened onto a private foyer that stole what little breath I had left. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, its light sprawling like fallen stars across the darkness. The space was open, modern, decorated in blacks and grays and deep blues that suggested money spent by someone with actual taste. Abstract art adorned the walls. Originals, I suspected, not prints. Furniture that looked like it belonged in museums. A grand piano sat near the windows, its surface reflecting the city lights. And standing by those windows, silhouetted against the glowing cityscape, was Dante. He turned as I entered, and something in my chest tightened painfully. He'd shed the suit jacket, wearing only black slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. The casual elegance made him more dangerous somehow, more real. His dark hair was slightly mussed, like he'd been running his fingers through it. In this light, I could see details I'd missed in the cafeteria. The sharp line of his jaw, the sensual curve of his mouth, the way his eyes tracked my every movement like a predator assessing prey. Emma. My name on his lips sent shivers down my spine. You came. You paid my rent. I stayed near the elevator, maintaining distance. Felt rude to decline, his lips curved. I hoped you came for better reasons than obligation. Did you? I forced myself to step forward to meet his eyes, because I don't understand what's happening here. Any of this. You're a stranger who knows everything about me, who breaks into my apartment and pays my bills and sends men to fix my car. Normal people don't do that. No. He moved toward me, each step measured. They don't. So what are you? Drug dealer? Arms trafficker? I pulled the words from crime dramas, from news reports. Hitman? I'm a businessman. That's not an answer. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes. My family has interests. Import, export, real estate, entertainment. We facilitate transactions between parties who require discretion. That's corporate speak for illegal. It's pragmatic speak for operating in gray areas. He tilted his head slightly. The world isn't black and white, Emma. Surely working in a hospital has taught you that. How many patients have you seen die because they couldn't afford treatment? How many insurance companies have denied coverage for procedures that would save lives? The law isn't morality, and morality isn't always legal. That's a convenient philosophy for a criminal. Yes. No denial, just that maddening honesty. It is. I didn't know whether to be angry or impressed. And Jake? How do you know him? Something dark flickered across Dante's face. Your ex-boyfriend is a small-time thief with delusions of grandeur. 6 months ago, he stole from someone who works for someone who works for me. The merchandise was recovered, but his debt remains. $15,000 plus interest. My stomach dropped. He owes you money. Indirectly. The men he owes answer to me, eventually. Everything in this city does. He said it without arrogance, just fact. When I saw him with you in that cafeteria, I had him investigated. Discovered his connection to you, to your daughter. Discovered what he'd done, abandoning you, abandoning her. Discovered what he was planning to do, which is use you as collateral. The words came out flat, emotionless. Offer you to his creditors as payment. A beautiful woman, a nurse with access to hospital supplies and patient records. There are men who would consider that valuable. The room tilted. I reached for something to steady myself, found the back of a leather chair. That's insane. He wouldn't... He's Lily's father. He abandoned her before she could walk. Dante's voice hardened. He's not a father. He's a sperm donor with legal claims and dangerous debts, and he sees you as a resource, not a person. You can't know that. I know exactly that. He moved closer, and I should have backed away, but couldn't seem to make my legs work. I've seen men like him my entire life. Men who take and take until there's nothing left, then discard what they've destroyed. He will hurt you, Emma. Will use you. Manipulate you. Maybe even traffic you if it means clearing his debts. And when he's done, he'll tell himself he had no choice. Stop. I pressed my hands to my face, trying to process. This is too much. I can't breathe. His hand touched my shoulder, warm through the thin sweater. Just breathe. I did, dragging air into lungs that felt too small. When I finally looked up, he was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Why do you care? The question came out broken. About me? About Lily? About any of this? You're a mob boss. I prefer executive coordinator of alternative business ventures. This isn't funny. No. The almost smile faded. It's not. You want the truth? The real truth? Yes. He studied me for a long moment, something working behind those dark eyes. Then, my mother was a nurse, pediatric ward like you. She worked doubles, skipped meals, wore shoes until they fell apart, raised me alone after my father was killed when I was 3. The confession hung between us, unexpected and raw. She died when I was 16, he continued quietly. Aneurysm. Sudden. She was at work, covering for someone who called in sick. They found her in the supply closet, already gone. His jaw tightened. She spent her life taking care of other people's children while barely scraping by. Died with nothing. No savings, no insurance, no one to take care of the son she'd sacrificed everything for. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate. Don't be sorry. Be smart. He stepped closer, and now we were barely a foot apart. I see her in you. That same exhaustion, that same stubborn pride. Working yourself to death because you believe it's what you have to do. And I see how this ends, Emma. I've already watched it end once. Understanding crashed over me. So this is about your mother. I'm just... What? A proxy? A second chance to save someone you couldn't save before? Maybe. His hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek so gently I almost didn't feel it. Or maybe I just don't want to watch another good person be destroyed by circumstances and bastards who see kindness as weakness. My breath caught. His touch was fire against my skin, burning away excuses and resistance. This close, I could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his pupils dilated as he looked at me. This is insane, I whispered. You're insane. I should leave. You should. His thumb traced my cheekbone. But you won't. Why not? Because you're tired of being alone. Tired of fighting battles you can't win. Tired of pretending you don't need help. His voice dropped lower, intimate. And because you feel this too, this thing between us, this pull. I did feel it. God help me, I did. Had felt it since that moment in the cafeteria when he'd stepped between me and Jake like an avenging angel dressed in Armani. Had felt it last night on the phone, in the dark, his voice wrapping around me like silk. I don't even know you, I managed. Then let me tell you. His hand moved to cup my face, tilting it up toward his. I'm 32 years old. I inherited my father's business at 19 and spent the next decade turning it into an empire. I'm wealthy enough that money is a tool, not a goal. I'm dangerous enough that most people cross the street when they see me coming. I've killed men who threatened what's mine, and I've slept soundly afterward. Each word should have sent me running. Instead, they rooted me to the spot. I don't have friends. I have associates, employees, people who fear me enough to be loyal. I don't have hobbies. I have assets and interests and investments. I don't do relationships. I have arrangements, transactions, mutually beneficial agreements. His eyes burned into mine, but then I saw you in that cafeteria, and something shifted. Something I didn't expect and don't quite understand. What? I barely breathed the word. Recognition. His other hand came up, framing my face between his palms. Like seeing something I didn't know I was missing until it was right in front of me. Like finding the other half of a combination lock, useless separately, but together. He didn't finish the sentence, didn't need to. I have a daughter, I said. Desperate for something to break this spell, a 3-year-old who depends on me. I can't afford to make mistakes. I know. I've had background checks run on her daycare, her pediatrician, everyone who comes in contact with her. She's protected now, both of you are. That's not normal, I'm not normal. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. I'm possessive, controlling, probably a dozen other red flags your instincts are screaming about, but I'm also honest about what I am and what I want, which is you. Simple, direct, devastating. In my life, in my bed, in my world. Safe, protected, mine. The last word sent heat flooding through me. You can't just claim people, watch me. Not arrogance, but absolute certainty. You've been surviving, Emma. I'm offering you a chance to actually live. No more double shifts unless you want them. No more choosing between groceries and electricity. No more fear every time your ex shows up wanting something. I'll take care of you. Both of you. All you have to do is let me, and in exchange, because there was always an exchange. Always a price. Be mine. His thumb stroked my cheeks, gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. Let me protect you. Let me give you the life you deserve. Let me show you what it feels like to be treasured instead of tolerated. I don't understand you, but my hands had come up to grip his wrists, holding him in place instead of pushing him away. Why me? You could have anyone. Models, actresses, women who actually belong in this world. I don't want someone who belongs here. His forehead touched mine, and the intimacy of it made my eyes sting. I want someone real. Someone who knows what matters. Someone who'd skip meals to make sure her daughter eats. Someone brave enough to work herself to exhaustion for people who don't even remember her name. Someone who looks at me and sees a man instead of a monster or a meal ticket. You are a monster, but the words held no heat. Yes. His lips curved against mine. Not quite a kiss. But I'm your monster now. If you'll have me. I should have said no. Should have walked away from this beautiful, dangerous man with his penthouse views and criminal empire and impossible promises. Should have protected myself, protected Lily, protected the small, hard-won life I'd built from nothing. Instead, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. He made a sound low in his throat. Surprise, maybe, or satisfaction. Then his arms were around me, pulling me against a body that was all lean muscle and controlled strength. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was claiming, possessive, the physical manifestation of everything he'd just promised. His mouth moved over mine with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he wanted and refused to settle for less. I melted into it, into him, into the heat that bloomed between us. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back to deepen the kiss. I tasted whiskey on his tongue, felt the hammer of his heart against my palm when I pressed my hand to his chest. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Dinner, he said roughly. I promised you dinner and answers. I don't care about dinner. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. I care about understanding what I just agreed to, what this is. This, he said, his thumb tracing my swollen lower lip, is me claiming you. This is you accepting my protection. This is the beginning of something neither of us can walk away from. That sounds like a threat. It's a promise. He kissed me again, softer this time, but no less possessive. You're mine now, Emma, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. Outside the windows, the city glittered like a jewel box spilled across darkness. Inside this penthouse, wrapped in the arms of a man I barely knew, but somehow recognized on a cellular level. I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Safe. Even if that safety came wrapped in danger and promises that might destroy me, even if the monster holding me might be the biggest threat of all. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of surreal normalcy, punctuated by moments that reminded me my life had been completely hijacked by a man who ran half the city's underworld with the efficiency of a Fortune 500 CEO. Dante didn't move me into his penthouse. Not immediately. Instead, he made my apartment livable. New locks appeared overnight, the kind that required fingerprint recognition and would probably survive a battering ram. The mold in the bathroom vanished, replaced by pristine tile and fixtures that actually worked. My landlord suddenly became responsive, fixing every complaint I'd logged over 8 months in a single weekend. Incentive, Dante explained when I asked. He understands that keeping you happy is in his best interest. I didn't ask what kind of incentive. Wasn't sure I wanted to know. Work became easier too, though I insisted on keeping my job despite his obvious displeasure. But my shifts mysteriously shortened. No more doubles unless I volunteered. My student loan servicer called to inform me my account had been paid in full. My credit cards were suddenly at 0 balances. "Stop," I demanded during one of our nightly phone calls, because we talked every night now, his voice the last thing I heard before sleep. "You can't just pay off my debts." "I need to do this myself." "Why?" Genuine confusion in his tone. "You work hard enough. Let me make your life easier. Because I'm not a charity case. Because I need to maintain some independence. Because you're stubborn and prideful and terrified of owing anyone anything." He'd paused. "The debts are paid, Emma. Consider it an investment in your future. In our future. Our future." The phrase made my stomach flutter, and my anxiety spike in equal measure. He sent cars for me, always different drivers, always the same careful attention. They'd take me to restaurants where we'd talk for hours, his hand covering mine across candle-lit tables, while men in suits watched from nearby positions. Or to his penthouse, where we'd sit by those impossible windows, and he'd tell me about his day in carefully edited versions that left out the violence but kept the truth of power and control. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Kisses that left me breathless, touches that promised everything but demanded nothing. It was seduction by patience, and it was working. Lily met him on a Saturday afternoon, 3 weeks after that first dinner. I'd been terrified, had almost canceled twice, but Dante had simply shown up at my apartment with a teddy bear larger than my daughter, and a smile that transformed his dangerous face into something almost boyish. "Hello, Lily." He'd crouched to her level, offering the bear. "I'm Dante. I'm a friend of your mother's." She'd studied him with the seriousness only toddlers could muster. "You're big." "I am. Is that okay? Do you like cats?" "I've never had one. Do you?" "Mrs. Rodriguez has 17. They're my friends." She'd taken the bear, hugging it. "What's his name?" "He doesn't have one yet. Maybe you could give him one." "Mr. Fuzzyface." No hesitation. Dante had laughed. Really laughed. The sound rich and genuine. "Mr. Fuzzyface is perfect." Watching them together did something dangerous to my heart. He was gentle with her, patient, letting her chatter about cats and daycare, and her favorite color, purple, which changed daily. When she'd climbed into his lap without invitation, seeking the kind of male attention she'd never had from Jake, I'd seen something shift in Dante's expression. Something protective and possessive that had nothing to do with claiming me, and everything to do with accepting the package deal I represented. We'd taken her to the park, a real park, not the concrete square with broken equipment near my apartment, but one with actual grass and new swings and a duck pond. Security had flanked us at a discreet distance, men in casual clothes who looked like they were just enjoying the weather. I'd tried not to think about why my daughter needed armed protection during an afternoon outing. "She's beautiful," Dante had said, watching Lily chase ducks with the fearless determination of someone who'd never learned about personal boundaries. "She has your eyes, and her father's stubbornness." "No." His arm had wrapped around my waist, pulling me against his side. "That's all you. The good parts are all you." I'd leaned into him, letting myself have this moment, this illusion of normalcy, this glimpse of what life could be if I stopped fighting and just surrendered. Then my phone had rung. Unknown number. I'd answered without thinking. "Hello? Having fun at the park?" Jake's voice slurred and angry. "Playing house with your new boyfriend? Letting him meet my daughter?" My blood went cold. "How did you—" "I'm watching you, Emma. Right now. You look good in that blue dress. Is that new? Did he buy it for you? Did you fuck him for it?" Dante had gone completely still beside me, his expression shutting down into something terrifying. "Jake, leave us alone. You have no right." "I have every right. She's my daughter. You're my—" He'd cut himself off. "You belong to me, Emma, not him. Me. And I'm done being patient." The call had ended. Dante had already been moving, speaking rapidly into his phone in Italian. Within seconds, his men were closer, forming a tighter perimeter around us. One was scanning the surrounding area with professional efficiency. "Where is he?" Dante's voice had been ice. "Find him. Now." We should go, I'd managed, trying to keep my voice steady for Lily. We need to leave. We're not running. He'd cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Not from him. Not from anyone. Do you understand? He's watching us. He could have a gun, he won't touch you. Absolute certainty. He won't get within 100 yards of you or Lily ever again. I promise you that. And I'd believed him. God help me. I'd believed him completely. We'd left the park, surrounded by a moving fortress of men in dark clothes. Lily oblivious in Dante's arms, still chattering about the ducks. The car ride back had been silent, tense. Dante's jaw tight as he made call after call in that fluid Italian that reminded me how little I truly knew about his world. At my apartment, he'd carried Lily upstairs while I fumbled with the new locks. Mrs. Rodriguez had taken my daughter for the evening. Dante had slipped her something, bills probably, and the old woman had accepted without her usual protests about payment. Then we'd been alone. Tell me about him. Dante had poured himself whiskey from a bottle that hadn't been in my apartment that morning. Everything. Every threat. Every time he's contacted you. Every reason you're afraid. So I'd told him. About the pregnancy Jake hadn't wanted. About his disappearance when Lily was 6 months old. About the calls that came every few months, drunk and belligerent, demanding I take him back. About the time he'd shown up at the hospital, making a scene until security escorted him out. About my fear that he'd try to claim custody just to hurt me, even though he'd never wanted to be a father. Dante had listened in silence, his expression growing darker with each detail. He's a dead man, he'd said finally. Calm, matter of fact, like announcing the weather. What? He threatened you, threatened your daughter, stalked you to a public park, made it clear he intends to escalate. Dante had set down his glass. That's unacceptable. You can't just kill him. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I meant it. I can do exactly that, have done it for less. He'd moved toward me, his hand settling on my shoulders, but I won't. Not if you don't want me to. This is your life, your choice. I'll respect whatever boundary you set. What's the alternative? I make him disappear, not permanently, just effectively. New city, new identity, enough fear that he never comes near you again. He'll understand that you're protected now. That touching you means forfeiting his life. That's still... I'd struggled for words. That's kidnapping. That's illegal. Yes. No apology. It is. I'd looked into his eyes, seeing the truth there. He would do this. Would commit felonies. Would use violence. Would cross every line I'd been taught to respect. All to protect me. All because in his world, threats weren't resolved through restraining orders and hope. I don't want you to kill him, I'd whispered. But I want him gone. I want to stop being afraid. I want Lily to be safe, then consider it done. He'd kissed my forehead, gentle despite the violence in his words. By tomorrow, Jake will be on a plane to Seattle with a new job and a clear understanding that this city is no longer safe for him. He'll have money, enough to clear his debts and start over, but he'll also have a shadow, someone watching to ensure he never comes back. Just like that, you can just rearrange someone's entire life? I can rearrange anything. His thumb had traced my lower lip. Especially when it comes to protecting what's mine. There was that word again. Mine. Possessive and claiming and absolute. I should be horrified, I'd said. Should call the police, report you, run away from this insanity. But you won't. No. The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. I won't. Why not? I'd thought about it. About all the reasons I should be terrified of this man and his casual relationship with violence, but beneath the fear was something else. Something that had been growing since that night in the cafeteria, when he'd stepped between me and Jake without hesitation. Because for the first time in 3 years, I feel safe. The words came out broken, because you see me, actually see me, not just the uniform or the bills or the baggage. Because when you look at Lily, you don't see an obligation. You see a child worth protecting. She is worth protecting. His hands had framed my face. You both are. And anyone who threatens you will learn exactly what that protection costs. He'd kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I'd let myself fall into it, into him. into this dangerous, impossible thing we were building. Later that night, after he'd left, always leaving before things went too far, maintaining that maddening patience, I'd stood by my window watching his car disappear into traffic. My phone had buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A photo. Jake at the airport, 2 of Dante's men flanking him. The timestamp read, 11:47 p.m. Below it, problem solved. Sleep well, beautiful. I should have felt guilty. Should have felt something beyond this overwhelming relief. Instead, I'd climbed into bed and slept through the night for the first time in 3 years. The following Monday, I arrived at work to find my supervisor waiting by the nurse's station. Her expression carefully neutral. "Emma, can we talk in my office?" My stomach dropped. Had someone reported Dante? Had the hospital found out about my connection to a known criminal? Was I being fired? Her office was small, cluttered with files and coffee cups. She gestured to a chair, then sat across from me, her hands folded on the desk. "I received an interesting call this morning," she began, "from the hospital board. Apparently, an anonymous donor has established a scholarship fund for nursing staff pursuing advanced degrees. Full tuition, books, living expenses, everything covered." I stared at her. "Okay? You've been selected as one of the recipients." She slid a folder across the desk. "If you're interested in completing your master's degree, the program starts next semester. You'd continue working here part-time while studying. Full benefits maintained." My hands shook as I opened the folder. It was real. All of it. A path to the future I'd abandoned when I got pregnant, when Jake left, when survival became more important than dreams. "There's no obligation," my supervisor continued. "But Emma, you're a gifted nurse. You could do more than bedside care. You could teach, could specialize, could—" "Yes," the word burst out. "Yes, I want this," she smiled. "I thought you might. There's one condition, though." Of course there was. "What?" "The donor requested that you personally receive the information from them. They're waiting in the conference room." My heart hammered. Now? Now. I walked to the conference room on numb legs, knowing what I'd find before I opened the door. Dante stood by the window, his back to me, phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking Italian again, his voice low and authoritative. When he heard the door close, he ended the call and turned. Surprise. That almost smile played at his lips. "You did this." Not a question. "I invested in talent." He moved toward me. "The hospital benefits, you benefit, and I get to watch you become everything you're capable of being. Win-win." Dante, this is too much. The car, the apartment, my debts, and now this. I can't accept. "You can, and you will." He was close now, his cologne wrapping around me. "Because you deserve this. Because your daughter deserves a mother who isn't exhausted and financially destroyed. Because I want you to have choices, not just obligations." Why? The question I kept asking, kept needing answered. Why do all of this for me? His hand cupped my cheek, his thumb brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. "Because when I look at you, I see my mother. I see every woman who's been told to settle, to accept less, to be grateful for scraps. And I see a chance to rewrite that story. To give you what she never had, protection, security, opportunity. I'm not your mother. No." His forehead touched mine. "You're the woman I'm falling in love with. The woman I want to build a life with. The woman who's going to let me spoil her and her daughter because she's finally starting to understand she deserves it. Love." He'd said love. The word hung between us, terrifying and perfect. "I don't know how to do this," I whispered. "How to be with someone like you. How to accept help without losing myself. How do you learn?" His lips brushed mine. "We both learn. Together. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not enough for your world? My world is brutal and bloody and built on violence." His eyes burned into mine. "You're the only good thing in it, the only real thing. Don't worry about being enough for my world, Emma. Worry about whether my world is good enough for you." I kissed him then, there in that conference room with its view of the parking lot and the faint smell of burnt coffee. Kissed him like he was oxygen and I'd been drowning. His arms wrapped around me, holding me close. And for the first time since this insane journey began, I let myself believe it. Believe in him. In us. In the possibility that maybe, just maybe, I deserved this happiness even if it came wrapped in danger and expensive suits and promises made by a man who could destroy lives with a phone call. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he smiled. A real smile that transformed his face into something almost vulnerable. "There's a gala this Saturday," he said. "Charity event. Very boring, very formal. I need a date. I don't have anything to wear to a gala." "Yes, you do. Check your closet when you get home." At my expression, he laughed. "I sent sizes to a stylist. Nothing too presumptuous, just options. If you hate them all, we'll find something else." "But Emma?" "What?" "I want to show you off. Want everyone in this city to see you on my arm and understand that you're mine, that you're protected. That touching you means war." The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my belly. "Okay," I agreed. "But Dante?" "Yes?" "If we're doing this, really doing this, I need honesty. Complete honesty. No more surprises. No more finding out about things after you've already done them." His expression sobered. "That's fair. Ask me anything. Have you killed people?" "Yes." "Recently?" "Within the last year, yes." The answer should have horrified me, should have sent me running. Instead, I just nodded. "Will you kill again?" "If someone threatens you or Lily, absolutely. No hesitation. Without question or remorse. What about innocent people? Collateral damage? I don't target innocents, but I won't lie. Sometimes people get caught in crossfire. I minimize casualties, but I can't eliminate the risk entirely." His jaw tightened. "If that's a deal breaker, tell me now." I thought about Jake, probably landing in Seattle right now with fear and money and a new life. Thought about the men in suits who watched from shadows, keeping us safe. Thought about Lily, sleeping soundly at night because monsters stood between her and other monsters. "It's not a deal breaker," I said quietly. "But I need you to understand, Lily comes first. Always. If your life, your business, ever puts her in danger, I'm gone. No discussion, no negotiation. Gone." "Agreed." Relief flooded his features. "She's my priority too now. Both of you are. I'll burn my entire empire before I let anything happen to either of you." He meant it. I could see the truth in his eyes, in the set of his jaw, in the way his hands tightened on my waist. "Okay then." I took a breath. "Let's do this. The gala, the relationship, all of it. Let's see where this goes. It goes everywhere," he said, kissing me again. "It goes to forever, if I have any say in it. Forever." With a mobster who'd rearranged my life, paid my debts, and looked at my daughter like she was precious, I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt like I was finally coming home. The gala was exactly as boring and formal as Dante had promised, held in a museum that had been transformed into a glittering showcase of wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors. String quartets played in corners. Waitstaff circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. And I was terrified. The dress Dante's stylist had selected was midnight blue silk that hugged my curves before flowing to the floor in elegant waves. It was the most expensive thing I'd ever worn, probably worth more than my car had been before his intervention. Matching heels that made my legs look impossibly long, hair swept up in a style that had required a professional, makeup applied by someone who actually knew what they were doing. I looked like I belonged here. I felt like an imposter. "Breathe," Dante murmured against my ear as we entered the main gallery. His hand rested possessively on my lower back, warm through the thin silk. He wore a tuxedo that had definitely been custom-made, fitting his powerful frame perfectly. "You're the most beautiful woman here." "You're biased. I'm observant." His lips brushed my temple. "And every man in this room is going to wish he was me." He wasn't wrong. I felt eyes on us immediately, women assessing my dress, my jewelry, borrowed from Dante's collection, my right to be on his arm. Men watching with a mixture of envy and calculation, wondering who I was and what I represented. Dante. A silver-haired man in an impeccable suit approached, his smile professional, Good to see you. And who is this lovely creature? Emma Chen. Dante's arm tightened around me. Emma, this is Senator Morrison. He's on the hospital board. The senator's eyes sharpened with recognition. Ah, one of our nurses. I heard about your scholarship. Congratulations. The board was very impressed with your application. I hadn't submitted an application, but I smiled and thanked him anyway, playing the game I was only beginning to understand. The evening progressed in a blur of introductions. Business owners, politicians, socialites, all of them treating Dante with a deference that went beyond respect into something closer to fear. His legitimate businesses were mentioned frequently. His other interests remained unspoken, but clearly understood. And through it all, he kept me close. His hand never left my body, my back, my waist, my hip, claiming me publicly, making a statement to everyone in attendance. This woman is mine. Touch her at your peril. You're making quite an impression, a woman said, appearing at my elbow while Dante spoke with a real estate developer. She was elegant, mid-40s, wearing diamonds that could fund a small country. I don't think I've ever seen Dante bring a date to one of these events. Haven't you? I tried to sound casual. Never. He's always alone, very dedicated to his work. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. You must be special, or convenient. She laughed, surprised. I like you. I'm Victoria Castellano. My husband runs the ports. She gestured to a distinguished man across the room. We've known Dante since he was a boy. Since before... Before what? Before he became what he is now. She studied me with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. You seem like a nice girl, smart, grounded, so I'm going to give you some advice. Walk away, now, while you still can. My stomach tightened. I don't understand. Men like Dante don't have relationships. They have possessions, and he's a very possessive man. She sipped her champagne. I've watched women try to get close to him over the years. It never ends well. He either destroys them or they destroy themselves trying to fit into his world. Maybe I'm different. That's what they all thought. Her expression softened slightly. I'm not trying to be cruel. I genuinely like you, which is why I'm warning you. Dante's world is violent and unforgiving. People disappear. Accidents happen. And the women who love him always pay the price. Before I could respond, Dante was back, his hand reclaiming its place on my waist. Victoria, still spreading doom and gloom? Just being realistic, darling. She kissed his cheek. Take care of this one. She seems worth keeping. She glided away, leaving me shaken. What did she say? Dante's voice had an edge, that your world is dangerous, that women who get involved with you get hurt. She's not wrong. He turned me to face him, his expression serious. This life, my life, it comes with risks, enemies, constant threats. I can protect you, will protect you, but I can't eliminate every danger. Then why bring me into it? Because the alternative is watching you work yourself to death alone. His hand cupped my face. Because I'm a selfish bastard who wants you anyway, despite the risks. Because... A commotion near the entrance cut him off. Raised voices, security moving quickly. Dante's entire demeanor changed in an instant, from attentive date to dangerous predator in the space of a heartbeat. Marco appeared at his side, speaking rapidly in Italian. I caught enough words to understand. Problem, threat, her. Get her out, Dante said in English, his jaw tight. Now, what's happening? My heart hammered. Nothing you need to worry about, but his eyes were scanning the crowd, calculating. Marco will take you home. I'll join you later. Dante? Emma. He kissed me hard, fast. Trust me. Go with Marco. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me. Then he was moving through the crowd with lethal purpose, his men materializing from shadows to flank him. I caught a glimpse of what had caused the commotion, a man being escorted out by security, his face twisted with rage. He looked familiar. Someone from the photos Dante had left in my apartment that first night. One of the men Jake had been meeting with in that warehouse. Marco's hand on my elbow was gentle but firm. Miss Chen, please, We need to go. The car ride home was silent. Marco's attention split between the road and his phone, which kept buzzing with updates. Other vehicles flanked us. More security. More protection. Whatever was happening, it was serious. At my apartment, Marco insisted on checking every room before allowing me inside. Mrs. Rodriguez had Lily for the night. Dante's arrangement, I realized now. He'd known something might happen, had planned for contingencies. Lock the doors. Marco repeated Dante's instructions. Don't leave until morning. He'll call when it's safe. Then I was alone with my racing thoughts and expensive dress, and the growing realization that Victoria's warning had been more prophetic than cautionary. An hour passed. Then 2. My phone remained silent. I changed into comfortable clothes, scrubbed off the makeup, took down the elaborate hairstyle. Became myself again. Just Emma. Not the woman on Dante's arm at society galas. At midnight, my phone finally rang. Are you okay? Dante's voice was rougher than usual. Strained. I'm fine. What happened? Someone thought they could send me a message by disrupting the gala, by getting close to you. A pause. They were wrong. Dante, what did you do? What I had to do. No elaboration. I'm coming over. I need to see you. It's midnight. Lily is safe with Mrs. Rodriguez. I already checked. Please, Emma. I need to see you. The vulnerability in his voice decided it. Okay. He arrived 20 minutes later, and my breath caught at the sight of him. The tuxedo jacket was gone, his white shirt partially unbuttoned and stained with something dark that might have been blood. His knuckles were bruised, his hair disheveled. He looked like he'd been in a fight. He probably had. Come in, I said quietly, stepping aside. He entered like he was carrying the weight of the world, moving to my couch and collapsing onto it with his head in his hands. I'd never seen him like this, vulnerable, almost broken. I sat beside him, my hand on his back. Talk to me. The man at the gala. His name is Victor. He works for a rival family, the Koslov Bratva. They've been pushing into my territory, challenging my authority. Tonight was supposed to be their statement. That they could reach you. Could threaten what's mine. And what happened to him? He's no longer a problem. Flat, emotionless. Then his hands dropped, and I saw his eyes. Dark with an emotion I couldn't name. They threatened you, Emma. Threatened to take you, to hurt you, to use you against me. And He trailed off, but I understood. Understood what he'd done, what he was capable of when protecting what was his. I should be horrified, I said softly. Should be running for the door, but all I feel is relief that you're okay. That we're okay. What does that make me? Mine. He pulled me into his lap, his arms wrapping around me like chains. It makes you mine, and I'm never letting you go, never letting anyone threaten you again. His lips found mine, desperate and claiming. I kissed him back with equal intensity, my hands in his hair, my body pressed against his. This wasn't the patient seduction of the past weeks. This was need, raw and consuming, Emma. My name was a prayer on his lips. Tell me to stop. Tell me we're moving too fast. Don't stop. I pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Don't you dare stop. Something fierce and possessive flared in his expression. Then he was standing, carrying me toward my bedroom with the ease of someone who could bench press twice my weight. The door closed behind us, shutting out the world and its dangers and consequences. His hands were reverent as he undressed me, like I was something precious and breakable, despite the violence still clinging to him like cologne. I helped him with his shirt, my fingers tracing scars I hadn't known existed, evidence of a life lived in shadows and violence. Are you sure? He asked, his voice rough. Once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters. I'm already yours. The truth of it settled in my bones. I have been since that night in the cafeteria. Maybe even before. He made a sound low in his throat, somewhere between possession and surrender. Then his mouth was on mine, and I stopped thinking altogether. Later, as we lay tangled together in my small bed with dawn creeping through the curtains, I traced patterns on his chest and tried to process how completely my life had changed in a matter of weeks. What are you thinking? He asked. his fingers combing through my hair, that this is insane, that I barely know you, that I should be terrified. I looked up at him. But I'm not. I feel safe with you, even though you're probably the most dangerous person I've ever met. You are safe with me. He pulled me closer. I know this happened fast. Know that I've upended your life, made decisions without asking permission, bulldozed through your boundaries, and I know I should probably apologize for that. But you won't. No. His lips curved. Because I'm not sorry. Because I saw what I wanted and took it. Because you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I refuse to apologize for that. What happens now? I asked. With the Kozlovs, with your business, with us, the Kozlovs are handled. Victor's death sends a message. Mess with what's mine, and there are consequences. His jaw tightened. As for my business, nothing changes. I'll continue doing what I do. But you and Lily, you're my priority now. Everything else is secondary. I need to keep working, keep my independence. I know, and you will, the scholarship, your job, your life. It's all still yours. I'm not trying to cage you, Emma. I'm trying to give you wings. Golden cage is still a cage, I said softly. Then don't think of it as a cage. He tilted my face up to his. Think of it as partnership. You give me purpose beyond violence and money. I give you security and freedom from fear. We both get something real in a world that's mostly smoke and mirrors. And Lily? I want to be her father, not biologically, but in every way that matters. I want to teach her to be strong, to be safe, to be loved. I want to give her the childhood I never had, one where she doesn't have to worry about money or danger or abandonment. His eyes were intense. If you'll let me. Tears stung my eyes. She deserves that. Deserves someone who'll actually show up. Then I'll show up. Every day for the rest of her life. For the rest of your lives. He kissed me softly. I love you, Emma. I know it's too soon. No, I should probably wait to say it. But I've never been good at patience when it comes to things I want. And I want you. Want this. Want forever. I love you too. The words felt like jumping off a cliff and finding solid ground. God help me, I do. You're dangerous and possessive and probably terrible for me in 100 different ways. But you see me. Really see me. And you make me feel like I deserve all the things I thought were impossible. You deserve everything. His arms tightened around me, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it to you. 6 months later, I stood in Dante's penthouse, our penthouse now, watching the sun rise over the city. Lily was asleep in her new room, surrounded by toys and books and the kind of security that made Fort Knox look casual. Mrs. Rodriguez had an apartment in the building, paid for by Dante, so she could still watch Lily when needed. I was halfway through my master's program, working part-time at the hospital, and loving it. My student loans were paid, my car was new. My life was unrecognizable from the exhausted, broke, terrified woman I'd been 6 months ago. But more than that, I was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy in a way I'd thought was reserved for other people. Dante emerged from the bedroom, padding over on bare feet to wrap his arms around me from behind. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. I leaned back against him, too busy thinking about how strange life is. How one moment can change everything. Regrets? Not even one. I turned in his arms. You saved me, you know. Saved us. You saved yourself. He kissed my forehead. I just provided the resources. The strength was always yours. We saved each other then. Deal. His lips curved. I have something for you. He produced a small velvet box, and my heart stopped. Dante, I know we said we'd wait, but I'm not a patient man, and I've never been good at following rules. He opened the box, revealing a ring that took my breath away. A sapphire surrounded by diamonds, elegant and unique. Marry me, Emma. Make this official. Let me be your husband, Lily's father, your partner in everything. Let me give you the forever I promised. I should have said we needed more time. Should have worried about the implications, the dangers, the reality of marrying into his world. Instead, I said, yes. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing is also the safest choice. Because sometimes the monster is actually the hero. Because sometimes love doesn't make sense or follow rules or wait for the right moment. Sometimes it just is. He slid the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd probably had my ring size investigated along with everything else about me. "I love you," he said, kissing me like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. My Emma, my salvation, my everything. "I love you too," I whispered against his lips, my dangerous, impossible, perfect man. Outside the windows, the city woke to another day. Somewhere, people were making breakfast, heading to work, living ordinary lives. We were not ordinary, would never be ordinary, but we were real. We were together. We were safe. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, that was more than enough. It was everything. 3 years later, I stood in our penthouse wearing scrubs, still working at the hospital despite Dante's protests, but now as a nurse practitioner making real change in the pediatric ward. Lily was 6 now, bright and fearless, starting first grade at a private school where she was guarded discreetly but constantly. And in my arms, sleeping peacefully, was our son, Antonio Salvatore, named for Dante's father. 6 months old, with dark hair and his father's intense eyes. Dante entered, still wearing his suit from whatever meeting he'd just left. His empire had grown, become more legitimate on the surface while remaining deadly underneath. But he'd kept his promise. Family first. Always. "How is he?" Dante asked softly, running a finger down Antonio's cheek. "Perfect. Just like his sister was at this age." I smiled up at my husband. "How was your day?" "Boring meetings about port contracts and real estate acquisitions." He loosened his tie. "The usual." By usual, he meant business that probably skirted multiple laws. But I'd learned not to ask for details I didn't need. Had learned to live in the gray areas between legal and moral, between right and necessary. "Mrs. Rodriguez has Lily for dinner. She's making tamales." I shifted Antonio to one arm, reaching for Dante with the other. "Which means we have an hour to ourselves." Heat flared in his eyes. "An hour? Whatever will we do with that time? I have some ideas." I kissed him, still feeling that spark that had ignited the first time our lips met. "But first, I have news." "Oh?" "The hospital board approved my proposal. We're opening a free clinic in the South End, the neighborhood where I used to live. Full services, no questions asked, funded by anonymous donations." I met his eyes. "Your donations." His expression softened. "Your mother would be proud. Both our mothers would be. I think so too." I handed him our son, watching as this dangerous, powerful man cradled our baby with infinite gentleness. "We're making a difference, Dante. A real difference. You're making the difference. I'm just writing checks. You're doing more than that. You're proving that people can change. That we're not defined by where we come from or what we've done. That love can redeem even the darkest souls." "Careful," he murmured, pulling me close with his free arm. "You're going to make me think I'm actually a good man. You are a good man. To me, to our children, to the people you choose to protect. That's what matters." He kissed me then, our son between us, and I felt the completeness of it. This life we'd built from danger and chance, and impossible choices, this family that shouldn't exist, but did anyway. "I love you," Dante said against my lips. "My Emma, my wife, my redemption." "I love you too," I whispered back. "My Dante, my husband, my salvation." And in that moment, with our son sleeping peacefully and our daughter laughing downstairs and the city stretching out before us in all its chaotic beauty, I understood something fundamental. Fairy tales weren't about princes and castles. They were about finding the person who saw your scars and loved them. About choosing danger that felt like safety over safety, that felt like prison. About taking chances on impossible men who turned out to be exactly what you needed. My fairy tale had started in a hospital cafeteria with a man who stepped between me and harm, and it would continue for the rest of our lives, written in gray areas and golden moments in danger survived and love triumphant, because I belonged to him and he belonged to me, forever.